right, hello everyone, and welcome to Next Mission. My name is Seth, and I'm one of your course instructors, specifically in the space of storytelling and narrative. I'm going to be introducing a lot of the concepts that you'll be exploring in this course, including today when I'm going to introduce the power of narrative. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself to you and tell you a little bit about my story. It begins in 2003 when I finished my undergraduate courses at UC Berkeley and left for basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. After Officer Candidate School in Georgia, I was stationed in Germany with the 1st Armored Division and soon found myself deployed to the Ramadi area of Iraq in 2006. I returned to Iraq again in 2008, this time living and working with the Iraqi Army in Baghdad. By 2010, I had left the Army to attend business school, with the intent to one day found a business in the Middle East. It's a series of events that changed my life, and for better or for worse, it's forever part of my story. Now, I tell you a little bit about my story because it helps you understand where I'm coming from, and more importantly, it helps me understand where I am today and why I am who I am. As you work through this class, I want to encourage you to share your story in the same way. A big piece of this course is going to be sharing in groups, and I want to remind you that this is a completely safe space. Everything that goes on here will be conducted on a HIPAA-compliant technology platform, which is just fancy doctor speak for saying that everything here is completely confidential, and that confidentiality is enforceable by national law. So given that, we insist that everyone give their classmates the same respect that they would want to have when sharing. It's important that you interact with the professors and with each other while respecting everyone's privacy. So let's move on and start with the statement that despite what your sergeant major told you, everyone in this class is special. We all have unique branches of service, MOSs, deployments, and personal stories. You already figured out that I was an Army officer, and I realize that comes with a certain vocabulary and understanding of the world. Try to do your best to understand my position, and I'll do my best to understand yours. But the details of my background are only important so far as that they tell the story of where I'm coming from and where I'm going. In fact, it doesn't matter at all why you took this class, whether it's to help you cope with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, or to help you better understand the service members you lead, or even if you're just taking this class to earn a few promotion points. The point is that the more time you take to reflect on your story, and the more courage you show in sharing it, the more everyone is going to learn from you. Ultimately, sharing yourself is what's going to make you a good teammate and a good learning partner. I can tell you that it took me a good couple of years before I was really ready to share my story, to even spend much time reflecting on it for myself. I personally think that I held back from sharing my story with other people because I was so focused on moving on from my time in the military and trying to adjust to the people and routines of my new life. However, I think my resistance became a real obstacle to my relating with the new classmates I had in my new life when I first started graduate school. When I didn't share, I didn't fully connect with other people, and I didn't fully come to understand my own past. And that's why I'm actually so interested in leading this part of the course. It's a way for me to share my story with you and hopefully hear back from you as you share in return. Now, over time, I came to learn that people were interested in my story, not just because it was so alien to them, but also because they did want to try to relate to me as a person. It took some time to adjust this idea and to figure out how I wanted to share myself with others, but because I really put in that time, I feel like I have a better understanding of how I want to live and how I want to share with the new people in my new life. Remember that this is a class about personal growth and using your experiences to empower yourself. We focus on building inner strength, building personal relationships, and realigning the priorities that will help you develop into the kind of person you want to be. I can tell you I'm only a few years removed from my time in Iraq, and I've found work I find rewarding, a group of friends and a significant other that I love, and a real sense of what's important to me. And I think that comes from being deliberate about understanding my experiences. So that's really my only ask for you. Try to suspend your disbelief and give the process your full try and full effort. It's the first big step in understanding and even leveraging the serious conditions that affect soldiers and potentially even you. But okay, great. Let's move on to the whiteboard, and we'll start learning a little bit more about the power of narrative and why it's such an important part of our class. Let's take a look. Hey, this is Seth again. Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and get started. So to kick off today's lecture, you should know that this course is made up of 3 components: storytelling, neuroscience, and salutogenesis, which seems to be our 90-point Words with Friends score word for the day. So salutogenesis. This comes from salus, which is the Latin word for health, safety, and well-being, and genesis, which is the Greek word for origin or creation. Each of these 3 components, storytelling, neuroscience, and salutogenesis, is interrelated with the others. Your engagement in the study and practice of each of these subject matters will facilitate your sense of health, safety, and well-being, and will ultimately be a catalyst for personal growth. Some of you may remember your commander saying that on the battlefield, crisis is really just opportunity, and in this case, the opportunity for growth. In other words, this course is a practicum in salutogenesis. So why storytelling? We tell stories because we humans define ourselves by the stories we tell. That is, the stories we tell ourselves, or the stories told to us about ourselves, and even the stories we tell one another. These stories, based on events either real or imagined, factual or fictional, interpreted and reinterpreted, told and retold either verbatim or with revision, create the core of our personal identity and our connection to our culture. It's something that's true across every culture, around the world, and even within the different militaries of the world. And that's something really cool to think about, that the stories from your time in service that connect you to humanity are the same types of stories that German pilots in World War I, British sailors fighting Napoleon, and even the ancient Spartans at the Gates of Fire used to connect to their humanity. While the locations, the politics, the weapons all change, the service members stay the same. In other words, you and an ancient samurai warlord have the same brain, and that's the coolest thing you're going to hear all day. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's get back to the psychology. The key here is our storytelling core, also referred to as our autobiographical self, or narrative self, connects our past to our present and our present to our future. When life is good, it generates hope and optimism and shows us our place in the universe. But during times of crisis, it can lead to doubts and despair. But in times of crisis, there are also times of opportunity, and our capacity to tell our story can help us find meaning in adversity and restore our sense of well-being. It can take us to levels of serenity and contentment, excitement, and exuberance that we have never felt before. And inherent in our storytelling process is our capacity to gain perspective and find meaning and experience. In reflecting in our experiences, sometimes confirming, sometimes changing, sometimes discovering meaning, changing that meaning, whatever, we heal and we grow. This process is sometimes referred to as self-authorship, but by any other name it packs the same power. The power of self-authorship is the power to transform ourselves. In fact, an abundance of scientific studies confirm that storytelling gives us the power to heal and the power to transform ourselves. Throughout this course, we will refer to the work of Jamie Pennebaker at the University of Texas in Austin, who has studied the effects of journaling on health, and the work of Dan McAdams at Northwestern University, whose work supports a focus on narrative as central to human psychology. In fact, during this course, we will ask you to do some journaling of your own. It's important to put aside any self-consciousness you have about vocabulary or writing skills. Seriously, forget the grammar, forget the spell check, just get your own words down on paper. This isn't an English class, and what we're looking for is the richness of your story, not the details of your sentences. And in finding the words to say to tell your own story, any words at all, and to say it in your own way, you will discover thoughts and feelings you may not have even realized there are, and in doing so, will find perspective and meaning you may not have imagined. Let's talk about the transformative power of narrative. When asked, how do you write? I invariably answer, one word at a time. That's Stephen King, an author everybody knows. But it's a point that holds true here for us. The dictionary defines narrative as a written account of connected events. In reality, narrative writing is a potent and redemptive tool that helps us profoundly navigate the past and present, thus clarifying our dreams for the future. Writing our own stories is the vehicle by which we make sense of trauma, chaos, the sinister and sublime. Putting our experiences on paper grounds us and at the same time empowers us. Words legitimize thoughts. Writing demystifies life's experiences. In other words, what you say is what you'll do, and what you do is who you'll become. When it comes to post-traumatic stress, it is important to talk about it. By naming our demons, we master them, we contain them. Writing gives us power over them, and as we write our stories, painful memories cease to leak into other areas of our lives. They become something separate from us and paradoxically more fully incorporated into our beings. It's not something that makes a lot of sense up front, but if you spend the time to think about it and talk about it, it's something you'll see happening very quickly. And as we write our stories, we'll continue to change them. Our stories will lift us up, bring clarity to our lives, bolster us, and teach us about our humanity. We are lifted up, transforming ourselves from victims to victors. According to Northwestern University psychologist Dan McAdams, a trailblazer in the burgeoning narrative psychology field, we aren't telling ourselves lies. We're composing heroic narratives that tell us essential truths about ourselves. In other words, you have your own story to tell, and it's not like anyone else's. It's yours and yours alone. So when you're telling it, don't be intimidated. Start small, either write about a recurring dream or maybe a wisp of a conversation you remember, but know that as you start to put the words down, those words will form sentences, and those sentences will begin to fill pages. And one day those pages will articulate what you may not have even known you were thinking all along. You and you alone are the gatekeeper of your story. You and only you have the power to make sense of that story. It's yours to own, and only you can tell it, one word at a time, and I encourage you to do so. All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that introduction. It's the foundation for why we go through this process of sharing ourselves with others and how we harness the power of narrative to adapt and grow. There's a lot of serious thought and study that's gone into understanding why communicating your story with your peers is so important. So in that spirit of sharing, what we're going to do now is switch over again and quickly watch a video from a Marine named Corporal Aaron Menken, who I think really encapsulates the values that we just covered. Let's take a quick look.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can, just briefly take an opportunity to get a few thank yous on the floor. First off, to my friend and fellow Marine, Ed Hahn with Deutsche Bank, who gave me the opportunity to speak this evening. There are so many on the list of the cards in front of you of the organizations that are beneficiaries of this evening that have directly impacted my life, from the Bob Woodruff Foundation. Ashley and Anne Marie are here, and IAVA, Paul and Katie and Michael. A special place in my heart, of course, for Operation Mend. For those of you who, of course, joining me this evening, Dr. Cody Azari, Director Melanie Gideon, Richard Azar, my fellow warriors, Specialist Joey Polk, Staff Sergeant Jonathan Rose, and Captain Mark Wise. If you could stand, be recognized. Where are they? Where are they? There they are. Hey! Joey! And of course, others on the list of those organizations that I feel a certain need to address, that these are not in any way charities. These are organizations that are presenting us with an opportunity for service, for national service. Anytime an individual takes it upon themselves to in any way aid or help a veteran, how that is ever at any point considered a charity is a shame. Operation Mend changed my life. I was in combat And in moving from our objective, stuffed in a tin can with other Marines, really thinking to myself with all of my battle rattle and in 120-degree weather, 140 degrees on the inside, thinking to myself, I've never been so hot. Little did I know moments later just how hot it would get. The IED tore through our amphibious assault vehicle, which the irony there, in the middle of the desert. Thank you, sir. And that moment, in an instant, changed my life forever. As Deb mentioned, to my right, 6 men, some fathers, all sons, gave their lives. I only had to give my face. And I use that word intentionally. We gave. There's this misnomer, this misconception that service members who return from battle, having left something on the battlefield, in some way lost what they sacrificed. That they lost anything. I know my buddy Joey didn't return from Afghanistan getting halfway home going, oh, I left my fingers. I left them right there. I gave my nose. I gave my ears. My mouth had contracted to the point where my mother had to feed me through a funnel for weeks. The life that I had come to expect or envisioned for myself, I had to reel back in, and was presented with a unique opportunity, the chance to redream my life all over again. And I reached a point of acceptance. I thought to myself, I'll look this way for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that, because the people will see. People will know. And then an angel by the name of Ron Katz, a philanthropist out in Los Angeles, saw an interview that I had been a part of and began to get the wheels turning at UCLA Medical Center and birthed a program that has become Operation Mend and focuses on the reconstruction of one's humanity that some of us sometimes give for our country. And the way that this organization has served me, to have been there and been what I have gone what I've been through, to have served and returned home and have a country serve me so well. These organizations present all of us with an opportunity to serve. National service, which I believe shouldn't be an elective, something you just decide to do, but an obligation, a moral imperative upon all of us to serve our country. And my belief is that if you can't serve there, serve them. Serve those who do. The transition home is never easy. But in comparison, I can't help but consider mine to be easier than most. Though I have endured upwards of 60 surgeries in my recovery. Others return home and they don't get the parades. They don't get the love and affection that I feel everywhere I go. I am blessed. What my life would be without that instant, I can't begin to define. But as more and more begin to make this transition, and they leave the fight to return home to fight for a 9-to-5 is wrong in so many ways. And the fact that the veterans on Wall Street have made it their goal, their objective, their mission to serve those who have served is invaluable. And I'm grateful to be a part of it, as all of you should be, to have this opportunity to serve. These individuals, real life heroes, embodying themselves, they align their lives with core values: leadership, duty, respect, excellence, commitment, courage, and honor. Now, honor is one of those funny things that if I were to ask you now to raise your hands of those of you who believe that you possess honor, most of you would raise your hands. I believe that honor is not synonymous with breath, and it's something you just have when you wake up in the morning. Something you must defend at all times so that no one takes away from you. Honor is a choice. It is a choice made with every breath. And every breath is a chance to lose it. Honor is a funny thing. And those of us who fight with it, fight for that next choice. Those that I served with were only there to do what they thought was right at any given moment, at any given time, to bring themselves and those around them home safely. So here they come. And with the nation wrangling its debt, defense cuts imminent, more veterans will be joining that fight here at home. Hundreds of thousands. Having been called upon after 9/11 to provide security for our homeland, have done just that. And now return home, merely looking for the opportunity to provide that same security for themselves and their families. What we give for the country that we love, and nothing lost. It's actually much easier now for me to lose body parts than it was when I was in combat. Now, through Operation Mend, I have these prosthetic ears. I just glue these on in the morning. They look this good. But in the morning, I'll be getting ready, and I'll have them laying out on my counter there. And my 3-year-old son, Hunter, will be celebrating his 4th birthday this upcoming September 11th. He'll come in and he'll hug my neck and he'll tell me, "Good morning, Dad." And he thinks it's funny to grab an ear and run off with it. So there I am in the house yelling at my 3-year-old, hey, you bring back Daddy's ears right now. Right now. I said, you bring them back. I know you hurt. You got 3 ears. I know you hurt me. It's my ear. All of us here have a chance, the opportunity to give to those who serve. Those of us returning, I believe, should be considered our nation's most valuable human capital resource, just waiting to be tapped. Opportunity. I thank VOWS for the opportunity that they've given us here. And what an opportunity it is. It's plain. Dare I say, as plain as the nose on my face. What we give here, what we do here, I can't thank enough. For what you've done, I thank you. And for what you will do, I salute you. Thank you.
So that was Corporal Aaron Menken, who I think we can all agree is a pretty amazing individual. I'm always struck by the fact that it's often the people who have faced the most serious obstacles who end up having the most positive perspectives on life in the end. In fact, I'm reminded of a friend of mine who lost both of his legs in Afghanistan, but who also came home and eventually went to graduate school. And I can tell you he's honestly about the most upbeat person I've ever met. And I'm still embarrassed that I would be complaining about having to wake up for classes at 8 a.m. And he was bouncing around talking about how lucky we were to be sitting through 90 minutes of finance lecture. Obviously, this proves that he's crazy. But my point is, you can find a lot of strength in the examples that people like this set. And you can even be an example for others by trying to set the same tone for growth and personal strength in your own life. And I think that's a really optimistic example to look at. That the harder things have been, potentially the better your perspective on life can become if you're willing to work on growing through your obstacles. But that's it for the content today in terms of the power of narrative. After the class, you're going to be watching the Kansas City interview tapes for your homework assignment. This will give you some insights into the backgrounds of soldiers from a different generation. But I believe you'll see a lot of discussion that resonates with you about your own experiences. As you watch these videos, think about the questions the service members are being asked and some of the answers they give in return. You're going to be interviewing your classmates and buddies in the same manner. So you should start to think now about what questions you'd like to be asked and what answers you'd like to share with everyone. Sharing honestly and deeply is what's going to help us have a worldview like Corporal Menken's. But with that, I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to pass things over to the more scientific portion of the class, which admittedly can be a little scary if you're a humanities major like I was. But I assure you, it's very understandable, and it's actually very interesting as well. So enjoy that portion, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.